Why, hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. I hope you're all having a wonderful day or evening. Today I want to take a moment to talk about something very special that has happened to me this week. The 14th of this month marks the 4-year friendiversary between me and my best friend Alexander, or Alex for short. This man would not only be my closest and dearest friend, and become so very quickly, but would also eventually become the man I would come to see as my father. So, where to even begin? Well, let's start off where all good stories start off, and that's at the very beginning. So, I would start working for Walmart, which is where this all takes place, and this is where primarily all begins, in April of 2020. Now, that was a kind of hit or miss year. Definitely not the easiest year of my life. Definitely a rough year. But, you know, I powered through it, as you can tell. I lived, I survived. Anyways, fast forward to May of 2020, and somebody very special would end up catching my eye. For those of you who are not catching on, Alex. Now, in the grand scheme of things, there wasn't really much about him that really stood out beyond how he presented himself. He definitely had a unique sense of style. You know, he was the only guy that worked there at the time that actually dressed, funnily enough, nice on a consistent basis. So that was definitely one thing that definitely caught my attention, was just how nice he dressed. Aside from that, there was just something about him that made me feel like he was different. Like, I got this feeling whenever I saw him and I was around him that made me want to get to know him. There's an aura, a vibe, if you will, about this man that drew me to him. And so, eventually, I would work up the courage to write him a note and give it to him. You know, introducing myself, giving out my contact information, what have you, so that way I could try my hand at being his friend, because I mainly just wanted to start things small, take things slow, and see how things went with this guy. Starting off with attempting a friendship. So, it's really funny because the day after I wrote the note that I was going to give to him, our boss at the time, like our supervisor, he brought me and Alex in, like, to the front desk and paired us both up, funnily enough, to reorganize the, you know, canned vegetables and stuff, like the aisle where you have like all the canned vegetables and whatnot. We were tasked with making that look like pretty, or as pretty as we could possibly get it to be, type of ordeal. So that's what we set out to do, me and him. And it was just me and him. Funnily enough, it was just me and him in that whole aisle. There was no one else because it was almost closing when this happened. So there was barely, if really, any other people there besides me and him at the time. And you probably might be thinking, oh my god, this is like such a coincidence, a perfect one. You should totally take advantage of it. And you know what? I actually did. I gathered up the courage to say hi to the guy that I had been wanting to introduce myself to and get to know for probably a solid week or two prior to this moment. And as you can probably guess, it went pretty well. We would end up talking about some of our interests, sharing some information about ourselves, what have you. And it got to a point to where I would ask him what he had planned for after he got off of work that night. Not because I was able to really do much or anything, because I had to be back home to get sleep for not only school the next day, but also, you know, work after that. And he told me he was going to go to McDonald's. And that would eventually lead to me asking him, like, what he usually gets. He told me what his usual was, and I was like, oh, I've never had that before. For the record, by the way, it was a deluxe crispy chicken with a side of fries and a Dr. Pepper. And me telling him this, I guess, made him want to invite me along, because that's exactly what he would end up doing. He literally just out of the blue, he was like, you want to come with me to get some McDonald's after work tonight? And I'm like, are you sure? sure? I mean, we literally just met. And he's like, hey, I want you to try the deluxe crispy chicken, which, by the way, I had not had ever once before this point. So this would be like my first time having that menu item. And, you know, in my brain, I'm like, on the one hand, I just met this guy. On the other hand, though, this is somebody I really want a shot at getting closer with. So I'm gonna take this chance and not screw it up and go with him to McDonald's. Since he is offering and he's inviting me, and he can also probably give me a ride home, because it was also around this time I was walking myself to and from work, so it would be nice to like be given a bit of a break and not only have someone treat me to dinner, but also, again, not have to walk back home from work again. And so I took him up on his offer, and before we left Walmart that night, he bought me what would also be my first ever cream soda Dr. Pepper. Like, I've had regular Dr. Pepper, but never the cream soda variant. I didn't even know there was a cream soda variant until he bought that first bottle for me to try. And after we both left Walmart, we went to McDonald's, got ourselves something to eat, and then he would then proceed to drop me off back home. But not before we ended up exchanging Facebook messengers with each other. So like, he gave me his Facebook, I gave him his, so that way we could stay in touch, because he really enjoyed my company that night and I enjoyed his. And I was just over the bloody moon. Of course, like, why wouldn't I be? I mean, again, I had been wanting to just talk with and spend some time, like, quality time with this guy for literally weeks. And I finally did, and everything went so much better and so much smoother than I had anticipated. And let me tell you something. That deluxe crispy chicken sandwich with cream soda Dr. Pepper freaking blew my mind. It was great, dude. It was freaking awesome. I loved it. 10 out of 10 back then. I mean, I wouldn't really say it's a 10 out of 10 now, because my diet has significantly changed since then. But back then, it was great. It was awesome. I loved it. And what I loved even more was getting to spend what would be the first of many, many, many more moments to come with this man that I would eventually not only come to see and feel as I said, my dearest and bestest friend, but also, in due time, my father, which I'll probably get more so into in another video, but I think that what I've shared today is good enough for now. Now, before I wrap things up, I would like to take a moment to talk about the art piece that I did in commemoration of this special occasion. So, it's nothing complicated. I had just remembered one of the many nicknames that my dad has given me over the years, aka his little apple. Where he got that from, I'm not entirely sure. But I thought it was cute. And so that's why I made it into the art piece that you see now. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video. In an equal measure, I hope to see you all again very, very soon. Until then, take good care of yourselves, and remember, I love you. Mwah!